back door still sticks in summer. Same wood, same warp, same stubbornness. I have lived in this house for 31 years. A small terrace in Leeds with a cracked path and a garden that grows more weeds than flowers. My daughter Sophie used to run through that back door every afternoon after school. Her bag would hit the wall, leaving a mark that is still there. Now she lives in a 4-bedroom house in a posh part of town. She drives a car that costs more than my entire house is worth. Last month, she posted a photo of her new hot tub. The caption said hard work pays off, no cap. I stared at that photo for a long time. Not because I was jealous, because I helped build every brick of that life. I gave her my savings for her first flat. I worked extra shifts so she could quit her part-time job and focus on her career. I signed papers I did not fully understand when she asked for help buying her second house. Straight up, I handed her my financial future on a silver plate. Now she sits in a hot tub while I count the days until my next pension payment. £73. That is what I have left after the rent and the electricity. £73 for 2 weeks. The back door is still stuck. I am still here. And I finally understand that my daughter did not get lucky. She got me. Let me take you back to a time before the hot tub, before the posh house, before the car. I grew up in a council estate in Manchester. My dad worked at a factory. My mum stayed home with 4 kids. We were not poor in a dramatic way. We were poor in the boring way. The way where you learn to make sandwiches without butter. The way where a new pair of shoes was a Christmas miracle. I left school at 16. Not because I was stupid. Because we needed the money. I worked at a bakery first. Then a supermarket. Then a small factory that made cardboard boxes. I met Dave at a pub near the Arndale Center. He was kind and quiet, and he never yelled. That was enough. We got married when I was 21. Small registry office. My mum cried. His mum got drunk. We moved into this terrace house in Leeds because Dave got a job at a warehouse nearby. The house was cheap. The roof leaked. The back door stuck. But it was ours. Sophie was born 2 years later. A Tuesday, rainy. She came out with her eyes wide open, like she was already inspecting the world. The nurse put her on my chest, and I made a promise. Not out loud. Inside my chest. I promised that Sophie would never feel small. That she would never wear secondhand shoes. That she would never stand at a shop window wishing. I worked part-time at first. Then full-time. Then I took a second job cleaning offices at night. Dave worked days. We passed each other like ships. He would come home as I left. I would come home as he slept. That was our marriage. Not romantic. Functional. Sophie was a bright kid, sharp. She had this way of looking at you like she was already 3 steps ahead. Teachers loved her. I made sure she had everything. New uniform every year. Private maths tutoring when she fell behind. A laptop when she started secondary school. Dave said we could not afford it. I said we could not afford not to. That was my line. My excuse. We could not afford not to give Sophie everything. So we gave and gave. Dave got sick when Sophie was 14. His liver. He had to stop working. The warehouse job was physical. He could not do it anymore. So I worked more. 3 jobs. 17-hour days sometimes. I would come home and my feet would be swollen. My back would be screaming. Sophie would be in her room doing homework. She would come out sometimes and say, "All right, Mom." That was it. All right, Mom. Not thank you. Not I see you. Just all right. I told myself she was a teenager. Teenagers are selfish. She would grow out of it. She did not grow out of it. She grew into it. The betrayal happened in a bank branch on a gray Tuesday. Sophie was 25. She had a good job in marketing. She was smart and ambitious, and she had a plan. Her plan needed a down payment for a flat. A nice flat in a gentrifying neighborhood. The kind of place where people have brunch and talk about property value. The down payment was £25,000. Sophie had saved 5. She asked me for 20. I said, "Sophie, I do not have £20,000. She said, "Mum, you have the house. Dave left it to you. You can take out equity. I stared at her. Equity. She had been doing her research. She knew exactly what she was asking. Take out equity against my house. The only thing I owned. The only thing Dave and I had built. She said it like it was nothing. Like my house was just a number on a screen. I said no. She looked at me. Not angry. Calculating. She said, Mom, I am not asking for a gift. I am asking for a loan. I will pay you back. With interest. I promise. Her eyes were clear. Her voice was steady. She had rehearsed this. I believed her. Because I was her mother. Because I had been saying yes to her for 25 years. Because saying no felt like breaking my promise. I signed the papers. The bank gave me a loan against my house. £20,000. The interest was 7%. My monthly payment went up by £300. I did not tell Sophie about the 300. I just handed her the check. She hugged me. She said, thank you, Mom. You won't regret this. She bought the flat. She painted the walls white. She invited me over once. I sat on her new sofa and looked at her new kitchen and her new view of the river. She made me tea. She talked about her career, her travel plans, her next goals. She did not mention the 20,000, not once. That night, I went home to my terrace. The back door still stuck. The weeds still grew. I sat in my living room and I thought about the extra £300 a month. I was 62. I was still working part-time at a care home. My knees hurt. My hands hurt. But I had helped my daughter. That was what mattered. That was what I told myself. Then 6 months later, Sophie bought a new car, a BMW. She posted a photo on social media. The caption said, treating myself. Treating myself. With the money she was supposed to be saving to pay me back. I called her that night. I said, Sophie, I saw the car. She said, yeah, Mom, it's a lease. I work hard. I deserve it. I said, what about my loan? She said, oh, that. Yeah, I will start paying you back soon. Just need to get settled first. Just need to get settled. She was settled in her white flat with her river view and her leased BMW. I was settled in my terrace with my back pain and my £300 payment. That was the moment. Not a fight. Not a scream. Just a quiet realization. She was never going to pay me back. And I was never going to ask her to. The months that followed were like watching a slow leak. Nothing dramatic. Just a steady draining. My hours at the care home got cut. The owner said they were restructuring. That meant they wanted younger staff who would work for less. I went from 30 hours a week to 18. My income dropped. My bills did not. The loan payment stayed $300. The rent stayed $600. The electricity went up. The food went up. Everything went up except my wages. I started doing odd jobs. Cleaning houses for people in Sophie's neighborhood. The irony was not lost on me. I would scrub their floors and think about my daughter sitting in her white flat. One house had a hot tub. Not Sophie's. Another woman's. I would clean around it and imagine what it felt like to have that much extra money. I never found out. My health got worse, my knees. Years of standing on hard floors. The doctor said arthritis. He said I needed physiotherapy. The NHS waiting list was 6 months. Private was £60 a session. I chose the waiting list. I stopped going to the cinema. I stopped buying new clothes. I stopped eating meat because it was too expensive. Rice and beans. Beans and rice. Sometimes eggs if they were on sale. Sophie came to visit once every 2 months. She would sit on my sofa and look around at my small living room like she was visiting a museum. Something from the past. She would ask, how are you, Mom? I would say, fine. She never asked about money. She never asked about my knees. She never offered to help. She would stay for an hour, then leave. Her car would pull away, and I would stand at the window watching the tail lights disappear. One time, I tried to talk to her about the loan. I said, Sophie, do you think you could start paying back a little each month? Even £50. She sighed. That long, tired sigh that says you are a problem. She said, Mom, I have my own expenses. My mortgage, my car, my bills. I am barely making it as it is. barely making it. She had a 4-bedroom house, a BMW, a hot tub. She went on holiday twice a year. She bought handbags that cost more than my monthly food budget. But she was barely making it. I did not argue. Arguing with Sophie was like arguing with a wall. The wall always won. Then the letter came, the bank. They were increasing my interest rate. The loan I had taken against the house was variable. The rates had gone up. My monthly payment went from $300 to $420. I sat at my kitchen table reading that letter. My hands were shaking. £420. My pension was $800. My part-time work was another $400 on a good month. Rent was $600. Electricity was $80. Food was $100. The math did not work. I called the bank. They said I could extend the loan term. That would lower the monthly payment, but increase the total interest. More years. More debt. I said yes. What choice did I have? I was 64. I was supposed to be slowing down. Instead, I was sinking. I did not tell Sophie about any of this. I was ashamed. Ashamed that I had been so stupid. Ashamed that I had trusted her. Ashamed that I was a grown woman who could not manage her own money because she had given it all away. The final straw came on my birthday. My 65th. Sophie sent a card. Not a call. Not a visit. A card with a printed message that said, "Happy birthday, Mum." Inside she had written, "Love, Sophie." That was it. 2 words. Love, Sophie. No gift, no money. No offer to take me for lunch. Just a card. I put it on the mantelpiece next to a photo of Dave. I looked at that card every day for a week. Then I threw it away. Not because I was angry. Because it made me sad. And I was tired of being sad. That was the moment I stopped expecting anything from Sophie. Not money, not help. Not even a phone call. I lowered my expectations to 0. And somehow, she still managed to disappoint me. A discovery came through a mutual friend, Linda. We worked together at the care home years ago. Linda still kept in touch with Sophie on social media. One day, Linda called me. She sounded strange, hesitant. She said, "Margaret, have you seen Sophie's latest post?" I said, "No, Linda, I do not follow her online. It makes me too sad." Linda said, "You need to see this." She sent me a screenshot. Sophie had posted a long message. It was about her journey, her success, her financial independence. She wrote, "I bought my first flat at 25 with no help from anyone. I worked hard, I saved, I sacrificed. Now I own a home, a car, a business. If I can do it, anyone can. No handouts, just hustle. No help from anyone. No handouts, just hustle." I read those words, and I felt something break inside me. Not my heart. That had broken years ago. Something else. My belief that Sophie was just careless. Just forgetful. Just busy. This was not carelessness. This was rewriting history. She had erased me. The £20,000, the loan, the house, the extra years of debt. All of it gone. Like it never happened. I scrolled through the comments. People were praising her, calling her an inspiration, a queen, a self-made woman. Self-made. The phrase made me want to scream. I was not a handout. I was her mother. I was her safety net. I was the reason she had a down payment instead of a dream. I called Sophie that night, for the first time in months. She answered on the 4th ring. I said, "Sophie, I saw your post." She said, "Oh, that? It's just social media, Mum. It's not that deep." I said, "You said you had no help. You said no handouts. What was my £20,000? A hallucination." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Mum, that was a loan. I am going to pay you back. It's not a handout if I pay it back." She had not paid a single pound, not one. In 4 years. I said, "Sophie, you have not paid me anything. Not a penny. And now you are telling the world you did it alone." She said, "Mum, you are being dramatic. This is why I don't post about personal stuff. You always make it about you. Make it about me. The money was mine. The house was mine. The debt was mine. And I was making it about me. I hung up. I did not yell. I just pressed the red button and sat in the silence. The back door stuck. The weeds grew. The kettle had not whistled in years because I could not afford to replace it. I thought about all the things I had given up. The holidays I never took. The clothes I never bought. The medical treatments I postponed. All of it so Sophie could have a down payment. Now she was telling strangers that she did it alone. That was the midpoint. The moment I stopped being her mother in the way I had always been. I became a woman who had been robbed. Not of money, of acknowledgement. And I decided that I would not give her the chance to rob me again. I did not plan revenge. Revenge requires energy I did not have. I planned something smaller. I planned to protect what was left. First, I went to Citizens Advice. A young woman named Fatima helped me look at my finances. I showed her the loan, the house, the payments. She asked me if Sophie had signed any agreement to repay the money. I said no. She was my daughter. I trusted her. Fatima looked at me with kind eyes. She said, "Margaret, you have few options legally." Without a written agreement, the money was a gift, not a loan. A gift. £20,000. Given away. Just like that. Fatima helped me restructure my debt. The bank agreed to freeze the interest for 6 months. That gave me breathing room, not much, but enough. Second, I started looking for more work. Not cleaning. My knees could not handle it. I started selling things online. Old clothes. Old books. Dave's old tools. Things I had held onto for years. It hurt to let them go. But the money helped. £50 here. £30 there. I opened a small online account. Just for these sales. I called it my Freedom Fund. Third, I found a community of women like me. A group called Women Without Safety Nets. We met at church hall every Wednesday. Women whose children had taken from them. Women who had given too much. Women who were learning to say no. The group leader was a woman named Pat. She was 78. She had outlived 2 husbands and 3 children. She told me once, the only person who will never leave you is the woman in the mirror. Start being kind to her. I did not understand at first. Then I started practicing. Every morning, I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. The gray hair, the tired eyes, the cracked hands. And I said out loud, "You are not invisible. You are not a bank. You are not a safety net. You are a woman." That felt strange at first. Then it felt necessary. Then it felt like truth. Fourth, I wrote Sophie a letter. Not an angry letter. A calm letter. I said, "Sophie, I love you. But I cannot help you anymore. Not with money. Not with loans. Not with co-signing. My house is my house. My pension is my pension. I have given you everything I had. Now I have nothing left to give. Please do not ask me again. If you want a relationship with me, it will be based on love, not on what I can provide for you." I sent the letter by post. Old school, no text, no email. Just paper. She did not reply for 3 weeks. Then she sent a message that said, "Okay, Mom, okay." That was it. Not a fight. Not an agreement. Just okay. That was her way of saying, I am not going to argue, but I am also not going to change. That was fine. I was not asking her to change. I was asking her to stop taking. The final step was the hardest. I changed my will. I went back to the legal aid clinic. The same young lawyer. I told him I wanted to leave my house to a charity that helps older women in poverty. He asked me if I was sure. I said I have never been more sure. Sophie had enough. She had a house, a car, a hot tub. She did not need my terrace with the stuck door and the weeds. But some other woman did. Some woman who had also given everything to her children and been left with nothing. That woman deserved my house. Not Sophie. I signed the papers. My hand did not shake. That was my quiet countermove. Not revenge, justice. Small justice, but mine. The confrontation happened on a rainy Sunday. Sophie showed up at my door without calling. That was unusual. She stood on my step in an expensive coat, holding a piece of paper. Her face was pale. She did not say hello. She just held up the paper and said, "What is this?" It was a copy of my will. The new one. The one leaving the house to charity. I did not ask how she got it. Probably Linda. Linda meant well. I said, "It is my will, Sophie. You are not in it." She stepped inside. Her voice was shaking. She said, "You are leaving your house to strangers. To some charity. I am your daughter. Your only daughter. That house should be mine." I closed the door. I leaned against the wall. My knees hurt. The back door stuck. The rain tapped on the window. I said, "Sophie, you have a house. A big house. A hot tub, a car. You do not need my house." She said, "It is not about need. It is about principle. I am your blood. You cannot cut me out." I looked at her. My daughter. The same girl I had carried through every storm. The same girl who had called me dramatic for wanting acknowledgement. The same girl who had told the world she did it alone. I spoke quietly. I said, "Sophie, I am not cutting you out. I am cutting myself loose. There is a difference." She said, "You are punishing me." I said, "No. I am protecting the woman in the mirror. The one you forgot about. The one who worked 3 jobs. Who gave you £20,000. Who cleaned other people's houses so you could have a down payment. That woman deserves to leave her house to whoever she wants. And she wants to leave it to someone who will not take her for granted." Sophie started crying. Real tears. Not performance tears. She said, "Mom, I know I messed up. I know I should have paid you back. I was just so focused on my own life. My own goals. I did not see what it was costing you." I did not comfort her. I just stood there. The rain kept falling. The kettle stayed silent. I said, "Sophie, I forgive you. Not because you deserve it. Because I deserve peace. But forgiveness does not mean I give you my house." That ship sailed. It sailed the day you posted about being self-made while I was eating rice and beans so I could pay the interest on your loan. She wiped her eyes. She said, "What can I do to fix this?" I said, "You cannot fix the past. But you can start showing up. Not with money. With time. With phone calls. With asking me how my knees are and actually listening to the answer. That is what I want. Not your guilt. Your presence." She nodded. She said, "Okay, Mom. I will try." She left after 20 minutes. The rain had stopped. I watched her drive away. Her expensive car. Her expensive coat. Her expensive life. I did not feel angry. I did not feel sad. I felt something new. I felt free. Not because I had won. Because I had stopped losing. Sometimes that is the same thing. That was 18 months ago. Sophie calls every week now. Real calls. Not 5-minute check-ins. 15-minute conversations. She asks about my knees. I tell her the truth. They still hurt. But I got physiotherapy through the NHS. It helps. She asks about my money. I tell her the truth. I am managing. The loan is almost paid off. 2 more months. She asks about the will. I tell her the will is still the same. She does not argue anymore. She just says, "Okay, Mom." She visited last month. She brought groceries. Not fancy things. Practical things: rice, beans, eggs, tea. She stayed for 2 hours. We sat in the living room. She looked at the photo of Dave on the mantelpiece. She said, "I miss him." I said, "Me too." That was a good moment. Not dramatic. Just honest. I am not saying everything is fixed. Sophie is still Sophie. She still cares about her image. She still posts on social media. But she posted something different last week. A photo of my back door. The stuck one. The caption said, "My mum's house. 31 years. She taught me everything I know about hard work." That was not nothing. That was something. The back door still sticks. The kettle still does not whistle. The weeds still grow. But I have an electric kettle now. A cheap one from the charity shop. It works. I make tea every morning. I sit by the window. I watch the street wake up. And I think about what I learned. Giving everything to someone does not guarantee they will keep you. But keeping something for yourself does not make you selfish. It makes you smart. It makes you safe. It makes you whole. If you are a mother watching this, please hear me. Your children are not your retirement plan. Your house is not their inheritance until you say it is. Your body is not a tool for their comfort. Say no. Say it early. Say it often. Say it without guilt. If you are a daughter watching this, please hear me. Your mother's savings are not your safety net. Her house is not your down payment. Her silence is not consent. Ask her what she needs. Then give it. Not because you owe her. Because she gave you everything when you owed her nothing. The back door still sticks. But I have learned to love the stick. It reminds me that some things do not change. Some things should not change. My love for Sophie has not changed. But my boundaries have. And that is not a sad ending. That is a real one. If this real-life story hit you somewhere honest, please like and subscribe. We share quiet, emotional stories here. No filters. No fake hustle. Just truth. Share this with someone who taught you what sacrifice looks like.